Okay, so we're here again. I'm in a different spot. We're just going to see if the inside is going to be a little bit better, and I'm just going to hold the phone because this is insanity that this is happening. I imagine that Erin and I will have another conversation at some point in time because there's a lot to be shared, and so I have a couple more questions, and so I don't want to drop it just yet because it would just not be fun for it to just end in this way. And so I'm waiting for Erin to come back on, to hop back on, and we'll continue. And hopefully, in this way, it'll be a little bit easier. And let's see. I'll open some shutters and see if there's any light can come in. Hey Sarah, thanks for being here. Can you imagine? Like, holy moly, can you imagine like what's happening with how the powers that be just don't want to let this work. They just don't want it. They just don't want it to work. So let's see. That's a little bit better. Okay. I think this is going to be better. So if you're just hopping on now, and this is the first time you've hopped on, we've had major technical difficulties having this conversation on air. Um, I imagine that Erin and I will have another conversation that is uh, more uh, what's I'm gonna say that's more you know less, I guess, less infiltrated because Facebook right now, the struggle really is really real. The struggle of Facebook is legitimate. Okay, it's happening. It's working. Yeah, okay. So, Erin, thank you so much for your patience. You're doing
Oh,
so
no.
good. I don't know what it is. I really just don't even know what it is. And like my voice is like right now, so I'm gonna see if I can not use the headphones. Um, okay, so you were talking about, we're just gonna jump right in. You were talking about how people who pay more can get more service, and then the other part was that it's like lineage based. But you lost me at whether you it wasn't in your family. It was in the systems around you that just got intertwined.
Well, it was one side of my family. Not every member of that side of my family, but just a uh, basically some aunts and uncles and that were
Okay.
involved, um, and then also just prominent people that ran in their circles. Um, so, um, I had a nice front row seat to a lot of that. And and then when I was asked, after one of them died, to take over back in, I think that was like early 2000s. Then that's when it was like I was introduced to another very prominent attorney that explained to me the whole story, how it worked, how I was supposed to take over, and uh, and then I was also threatened that if I ever said anything, that I would disappear, and that and sent a chill through me. And I looked, and when I looked over at my uncle, he nodded. Yeah, that's true. It's like, I was told, it's like, well, the attorney had said, hey, I know these mountains. We were in the mountains, and like the back of my hand. And he said, nobody will ever find the body. And when I looked over my uncle, he nodded, and I was like, he's like, so I trust that you can hold your tongue. And I just kind of was really cool, nodded, and uh, you know, uh, just uh, just quite didn't know what to think. It was like, because at this point I had gone back and forth. I'd almost been convinced that I was crazy, because I did fortunately have that one therapist that did believe me, but then there'd been so many people that had questioned everything because, you can't prove anything. Well, how did this happen? Well, what about that? Well, what about medical records? Well, my uncle was a doctor. Yeah. Several of them were doctors, or attorneys. Yeah, so what medical records? You know, uh, and now I had plenty of medical records for other crap, but it, so when this all unfolded, and then I started being harassed, and then people outside me. I have this one friend who heard something that saw all this, and I was just like, tell me this is real. Tell me you heard this. I've heard a comment that one of them had made and everything, and she's like, yeah. She goes like, holy shit, is what she said. And you know so uh I have been blessed that I had the right people. I can't say that enough, um but one of the things I think that's bigger than anything, whether we get these people or not, is that survivors are able to get the help and be believed. You know, I mean, I have no sympathy for the women who cry rape that didn't get raped, that do it just for power, or same thing. You know, uh, people crying wolf, and that happens. That's just part of life. That does happen, but uh, that should not still take away from the real people out there, because you can tell. You can tell if somebody's blowing smoke up your butt about a story that's that emotional, that's that deep. You can see it in their eyes. I remember uh, one of one of my really good friends who was in the military. When he met me, he said, you've seen a lot of death. And I broke down and cried, because he said, a soldier can spot that. And so he'd asked me, he said, you're either former military, you had a really fucked up childhood. And he goes, I'm betting the latter. And I just froze. I didn't know what to say for a second. And then later we became really close. And he helped me out of a lot of really sticky situations. But, it's so hard for victims to be believed and to be heard. And that's what it needs for them to transform into survivors, and to be able to be empowered and be able to have a voice, and to be able to sit there and, at first people were saying I was paranoid, until I had multiple people see, my home phone, we call my cell phone when nobody was home, at work. And, you know, and then, my friend who was military, former cop, was like, wow, your phone is tapped, and all this. And so, I started having all this validation, and I have um, uh, people starting to wake up and go, she's been telling the same story for decades, and it hasn't changed. And, um, and just even in my own state, even in my own city, there are lots of women and children that are being trafficked underground in some way, shape, or form. Some locally, some nationally, some internationally, and uh, and that's and they need our help. They need, more than anything, our compassion and understanding, and that healing sent out, instead of everybody wants to get on the bandwagon now. Okay, well, now we're aware of it and we want to go, you know, hurt everybody. And it's like, that's not the answer. It's like, if we can get people to be held accountable, that's great. But the biggest thing that needs to happen, because I don't know if anybody at that level can ever truly be held accountable. They will in one life or another, but at least by our legal system, if that is even possible. It's the thing is to be open to the people who are surviving this, and to be able to sit there and pay attention if um, you know, pay attention to the kids, pay attention if something's wrong, um, and just listen and be open with your heart, but not sit there and react out of anger or become vigilantes and go, well, everybody in Hollywood or everybody in this group is automatically guilty. That's not the answer either. No, any which. And but sadly, most of the right voices are too scared to speak.
Yeah. So, what would you tell? I mean, this is a twofold question. What would you tell someone who was just hearing this story? How would you ask them to hear you? Because we're teaching the collective population how to listen to these types of stories. So how can we prepare the general population to listen?
Well, I think one of the first things is that anytime somebody is going to open up about something that serious, is um, is you know I've had some people that get into interrogator mode. Well, are you sure that happened? Or, you were awfully young. How do you remember this and that? And then that just shuts you down and it crushes your soul. And it confirms everything that they always told you is nobody will ever believe you. And it's like I had a couple of therapists. See, I believe you believe this is real. And I've had friends say that. And um, and the thing is whether or not you can believe it or not, take your head out of the game, put your heart in it, and see what you're feeling from that person. Because, you will feel that fear and that anger and that hurt and that intensity. But, sometimes that's too much for people. It's too heavy for them to handle. And that's okay too. But it's also okay to go, I, you know, I can't, I can't hear this. It's too triggering for me. I have much more respect for somebody who can sit there and go, this is too hard for me, than somebody who sits there and tries to discount. I believe you believe this is real, or interrogate. How do you know that happened? Is that really what this and that? Nobody can prove it. Nobody, who else can show you? Well, at least the later harassment in life, I have proof of that, but I can't prove who was behind it. But I know, and they know. It's and and that is the one thing, and it's the same with just even victims of rape. That's gone on forever. Of the discounting. Well, that didn't happen, or you shouldn't have worn that outfit. That it's just it's that same mentality, but it goes deeper, because it is hard to hear. Nobody wants to picture these things. Nobody wants to have that image in their head. And I get that too when somebody says, hey, that's too heavy for me, because there are things that old adage of, there's things that you can't unsee. And so and even visually, it's like it just to um, tell my story. I actually had a therapist go, I finally get honest with me and go, I don't know if I can handle this. That I respected her for. She was just like, because, and, and so, fortunately, she's like, I can't, I can't help you, because and she's like, but we're used to hearing, I can't help you, and, or I won't help you. And so, the key thing is that, to be able to support some of these people come out doesn't necessarily mean having to hear their whole story. It just means being honest and being open in your heart, and being honest with yourself. If it's too much, if it's too triggering, to be able to say, hey, I can't, but I would like to help you find the help you need, because there's always a solution.
Mm-hmm.
Well, we can't say we're heard. So, those people in my life that are priceless are the ones that have been there. And when it's like, I've, I could talk about, and they didn't shut me out, and they didn't, sometimes even people got scared of, they get scared of knowing you. Um, and
Mm-hmm.
uh, so, it's just really a matter of being open in the heart, um, and just having some compassion all the way around, and not jumping to conclusions until the whole story is in. You know, and because, like I said,
Yeah, that's a
we,
great.
we got a society that's swinging one way, one extreme to the other, and that's
Right.
it's not in the extremes. It's in the middle. It's where the heart is. It's where the truth is.
Mm, beautiful.
Beautiful.
Yeah, you cut out a little bit, but the gist of the message is learn how to just receive without going into judgment, and learn how to be able to hold the space for something. And if you can't hold it, just say that. Be honest about it. Because if you're not honest about it, then no survivor is going to be able to share anything with you, and you're not going to be able to develop a relationship anyways. And so just be honest about how you're feeling, and that will create honesty in the person outside of you too. So on the other side, here's the next question: is what would you tell survivors who are just now finding their truth and their bravery, and they've already gone through such tribulation, and they've gone through so many experiences, and now they're ready to speak? What kind of advice would you give to them when they're ready to speak?
Okay, am I back? Can you see me? I
I can
lost it.
see you. Isn't this so interesting, right? Like this never happens. This never happens. Not like this.
Well, I'm used to weird stuff happening. So, but yeah, back to what I said is the any time that I have met a survivor, one of the things that I try to bring across is never underestimate your power to heal yourself, and that the walking through the memories is really really tough, and to get a support system, and to get help, because I always wanted to be tough and think that I could do everything alone, And because I didn't need people, I wasn't going to need people because I didn't know who I could trust. I was even, I was even trained to not trust people that I thought that were trustworthy. It was, it was just by design. And so, and it's going to take time, and it's okay to be where you're at, and it's okay to fall apart. But also, one of the things that has been, instrumental in me, I hit the point with therapy that I had finally talked as much as I could talk about. And then I started, embracing a lot of spiritual practices. I don't consider myself religious, but very spiritual, and started doing a lot of meditation and just really looking into healing. But I also started, especially after an accident, looking into neurobiology and how the components of how trauma works in the brain, and that you can soften it, and you can, through certain techniques, make it to where it doesn't hurt so bad. And there are a lot of healing options available, but it's not in your traditional setting. And that's, but the thing is that for me, when I decided I would leave no stone unturned, because I did not want to give my power away by being miserable the whole rest of my life, and to being shut down, and to being able to not trust anybody, or not care, or not be open. And so the biggest power that I could ever have is be able to have an open heart and love. And I ran into, when I faced one of my abusers at one point, because I was so open, he said to me, "You scare me." And he said, "Do you believe in God?" And I said, "Yeah, but not the way you think." And he said, "Why?" And I said, "Because I've seen too much to know that there's no, I do believe that there's something, there is a healing presence. I was taught to destroy, but I think to be able to destroy, you also have to learn how to heal. And I chose to learn how to heal, and I chose that to be my path. And I chose to not be bitter, and to not be hateful, and to to look at, life becomes what you focus on. And and by necessity, and also too, by the way our brains work is with trauma, is our brain biochemically will become addicted to negative emotions and breaking that cycle. But our ego wants to hang on to it, of this is how I identify myself. I identify myself by all these horrible things that have happened to me. And I'm not functioning in life because of all these horrible things that have happened to me. And that is the biggest illusion, is that no matter what, I've had the most vile things happen to me. And I'm watching my little dog, and I can grin, and I get excited about a flower coming up. And I have long-term friendships and relationships, and I have, all this love in my life. And that's taking power back. That is, and it was, when I got to the point in therapy where I was just like, okay, I've talked about this, all I can talk about. And then I started getting into like yoga and martial arts, and something about the movement and your body just really released a lot of things. And at first I would break down and cry after my martial art class. And I remember telling my husband at the time that I was like, I don't know what's wrong with me. And he was a martial artist too. And he said, "Oh, it happens. You got all that trauma stored in your body. It's going to release." And, but, and I see that too happening with, some of the other survivors that, I train with. But just make your healing a priority. And that healing, is mind, body, and spirit. Of look at what you're feeding your thoughts. Life becomes what you focus on. And if all I can see is the hurt, then that's all I'll experience. That's all I'll ever be able to feel. You know, it's kind of like walking down a road, and on one side you got a garbage dump, and the other side you got this beautiful field, and you got two people walking down. You know, one person is looking at the garbage and they're like, man, there's nothing but garbage here. And the same person on the same road is going, there's nothing but beautiful flowers here. It's what you choose. But it's a process. And it, you know, and you know, the other thing I'd say to a survivor is, I'm not going to lie. It's going to bring you to your knees and make you wonder, you know, make you feel like you cannot go on. But it's like, just believe that I believe if you can't believe. And, you know, and sometimes that's all it takes is a friend that when you can't believe in yourself, they believe in you. And I was blessed that I've had that. You know, I've had that a lot. And because there were times that I thought, I can't do this anymore. I can't. But somebody else believed in me, and that just gave me just enough of an oomph that I was like, okay, I can take another step. And the other thing is, with anything, doesn't matter if you're a survivor or not, whatever approach you have in life, the greater the fire, the greater the gain. And so, you know, there'd be times I'd be in the middle of it and going, you know, I'm just curled up in a ball in the corner of my closet, not knowing if I can even function. And I just kept going, just like a mantra, if I get to the other side, if I can get to the other side, it will be so much better. And every single fire I've walked through has set me a little bit more free. And, you know, and it has helped me do the impossible, you know, even with, you know, physically healing myself, spiritually, emotionally. You know, I even had a couple of therapists say, you would never hold down long-term relationships. Well, my best friend I've been friends with for 40 years, you know, but most of my friends I've been friends with for over a decade. But to, you know, have an expert because of the toll that this took on you, you'll never hold down any functional relationships or jobs. And I've proven them all wrong. And so sometimes the best revenge is living well. But I think even better than that is finding your way to happy. And that is still possible no matter how much crap you've been through.
Truth. Um, what I want to say is thank you so much. I feel your heart. I feel your voice. I feel your soul. I feel you, and I know that nothing was easy.
No, you know, and it's, you know, now I think the nice thing is something I couldn't imagine is now that I can look back and I can see the worst of the worst that happened, and to be able to look at it from now a compassionate, objective place, instead of a place of horror. You know, it's horrific, but it's okay. And, you know, and I've been able, it's, I think that's the key thing is that we get convinced that this is the best it's going to be. And, but I think, you know, what happens, I think, in our society is that we want a simple solution, whether it's, okay, well, let me find the right medication or therapy or, you know, or you know, activity or whatever. And I think for healing, it's a little bit of everything. You know, we always want that one solution, but the solution for me was getting help. There were times that I was on antidepressants. Fortunately, I don't have to take them anymore. You know, I did whatever I needed to do to take the edge off so I could face whatever I had to face. And as much as I don't like being on medications, at the time, it really helped me just level me out to where I could, you know, I could deal with it. And then but that, it doesn't end there. It ends, it's a total holistic thing for me, of of just getting the energy moving in my body, just the meditation, I found, when you go through kind of trauma, it throws off all your brain chemistry. There's a lot of nutritional things and supplemental things that can help level out, the serotonin and dopamine and, acetylcholine and all the adrenaline that's out of whack in an abuse survivor, because we live in a constant state of adrenaline growing up. And that really permanently messes your system up, especially when the abuse is under the age of 7. So there's a lot, biochemically that gets screwed up, and a lot of women, have other issues, from scarring and tearing, whatever, kind of things go on. But so it's not a simple one-stop solution. I think it's that mind, body, and spirit, and bringing that in line. And I wish people talked about that more, because it's always like, well, you should go to therapy. Well, okay. Well, therapy's going to help to an extent, but these other things can also help and accelerate the healing, and accelerate the relief, from all the anxiety and the nightmares. I rarely have nightmares anymore, and I rarely have flashbacks, but they used to be a regular occurrence. And so that's such a blessing. And a lot of times, and it's like, I remember asking people, is this ever going to go away? Well, with what you've been through, probably not. But I never accepted anybody telling me that that was as good as it's going to get. And so it's the leave no stone unturned in your own healing, but really, try to create a relationship with something greater than yourself.
Beautiful. The thing that keeps coming through is like, it stops with her. It stops with us. We say no, and we're like, we're not doing this anymore. This is not the way it's going to happen anymore. And I'm going to show up this way, and this is the way it's going to be moving forward. I'm not participating in that anymore. So I know that there are big things in the future for you. I know there's big, exciting things in the future for you, because I live with our mutual friend, and she talks so highly of you, and I can't wait until your story continues to get shared on the big screen, and so that people can see that this is real. I saw a puppy inside of the screen for a second. Just tell us who that
Oh yes, this is that's one of my 8 dogs. I, my therapy is being the crazy dog lady in the woods, as I joke, but now it's actually the happy dog lady in the woods. But that's I like to work with troubled animals, and so I he's what's known as a foster fail. So, yeah.
Yeah, so our hearts, right? Our hearts, when we don't want to experience trauma, and we don't like wish it on anyone. But when we do experience it, it brings us closer to compassion, and we can help those who are experiencing trauma too. So I know your story already has helped many people who have watched this, even though it got messed up a few times. I'm definitely going to invite you back for another talk at some point in time, and we'll do it off air, and we'll do it so that it's completely, non-hijackable. And I'm so grateful for you and the time you shared with me. You really humble my heart, and I'm just grateful to be connected to you in this way. So thank you for your time and for your presence. And I'm sorry this happened, and at the same time, I'm grateful that you have a voice to share it, because the world needs to know.
Well, I think I think the one thing is that helped with the sanity of getting through this is now I wouldn't change a thing, because of I see the potential of healing for this, and and the other thing I would say to survivors is don't get caught in that trap of why did this happen to me, or is this bad karma or whatever. Is like, I view it as a totally different thing. Somebody had to be Erin, and maybe my soul was strong enough to be that. And and so I don't want to let that go to waste. And it's like I decided that I would take a path of healing rather than destruction. But somebody had to be Erin, and so. But I'm okay. It's like I'm okay, and if I can do this, anybody can do this. Because somebody had to be you and you and you. And the key thing is that we really need to transcend above our rash judgments of other people and really start listening with our hearts. And if we do that, that's going to gain more momentum and more truth than all this extremes of jumping to conclusions or being offended by every little subject that comes up on the internet. It's the real thing is just be decent to each other, and just have a little bit of compassion.
You hear that, everyone? Just a little bit of compassion goes a long way. So if you're listening to the story for the first time ever and it's hard for you to deal with, find the compassion in yourself to either say, I can't handle it, or just listen. You don't have to say anything. All you got to do is listen. And you, Erin, you're a collective transmuter. So I honor you. You're transmuting the dark of the dark. And you're coming out on the other side and sharing a story that helps us to see that compassion is still possible no matter what. And I'm grateful for that message. So I know I've taken so much of your time already, but will you be talking again?
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. And hopefully next month I'll be out there to see our mutual friend, and because I need to choke her or something.
Okay, so now I'm going to tell you. So the person I live with, the extraordinary woman that I live with, she's a mixed martial arts master, and she's our mutual friend, and that's how Erin and I know each other. And so, so when you guys get here, maybe y'all can teach me how to spar and do some things, because I've been trying to get Shelly to do that with me, but I'm just like, maybe I'm just chicken or something. I don't know.
We can ease you into it. We're pretty good at that.
I love that.
But I really appreciate what you're doing here, and and thank you so much for having me on. And yes, I would love to visit with you again.
Yeah, I feel like we're going to do some good work together. So I am extraordinarily excited, and it's kind of like a little effed up, right? Because like we go through this trauma, and we're like, oh, now I'm excited to connect with people who can actually, talk about it and change the narrative. And it's kind of a weird thing to be excited about. I'm not going to lie. It really is a weird thing to be excited about. But I am, because I know that the more that we have conversations like this, the more the world heals, and the more the world is able to understand, and the more this shit ends.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. It's just, it's just that it's time for us, society over time keeps, evolving and elevating, and now it's time to elevate again and to, get, we've come a long ways from the Salem witch trials and all the barbaric stuff there, but we still got a long ways to go. And but the key isn't through anger and punishment and hate. It's through love and compassion and openness.
Yeah. I love you. Thank you.
You're very welcome. I was glad to be on here and to be able to share a different perspective.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, we'll talk again for sure. And thank you to everyone who watched and stayed with us, even though we went through all these like technical difficulties. And we'll see you again, Erin. Thank you so much. Good night.
All right, thanks.
Bye.